Oliver, Alderwoman Bade, Alderman Warman, Alderman Bug, and myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 24-0509, approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held on June 27, 2024.
So moved.
We have a motion by
Second.
Alderman Bade, second by Alderman Tolliver. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay. Then we'll go on to the agenda item, 24-0528, a resolution approving a forgivable loan to a Carniceria, I'm sorry, how do we pronounce that? Carniceria El Paso Grande Corp. and the Rodriguez family to assist in the opening their facility at 2134 West Galena Boulevard.
Thank you, Alderman. I won the Spanish medal in my high school, so I'm pretty good at those pronunciations. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Alderwoman and Aldermen. Here to consider this resolution, which is really to lend a hand to the Rodriguez family and specifically to approve a forgivable loan for $325,000, in which I'll describe later on really as a win-win outcome. The family, of course, is very well known in the Aurora community with their El Paso branded grocery locations, including the El Paso Grande Supermercado at 435 East New York. The family purchased the old Aldi location at 2134 West Galena a couple of years ago and has invested through various mechanisms, loans and equity of upwards of $3.4 million to get that store open. That store still is not open for a number of reasons. As we all know, those of us who have done this, it's not easy to retrofit an old Aldi's into another store, a store that will be much different than that store. But aside from that, there were a lot of issues that the company experienced over the last couple of years, starting really with the outcome of COVID. But then there was a fire in the East Side store, roof damage on the West Side store, and then unfortunately fraud perpetuated, which I think was a result, the family's here today, we could talk more about it, but really was a result of the need to get this equipment and work with an intermediary to get that equipment, trying to get around a little bit of the challenges of the supply chain. Unfortunately, that equipment was never delivered, so there was $500,000 that was not put into the store that needed to be to open up the store. Fortunately, because the store on the east side does so well, at least from a revenue standpoint, grocery stores are notoriously not high volume. They're high volume, but not so high profitable businesses. But there was enough capital to keep the other store servicing that debt, which was upwards of $10,000 a month for the last couple of years. So they've been able to keep the thing afloat. But now we've got to open this new store, and there's liquidity issues to get that done, including stocking the new store and finishing the payment for the roof, getting a new hood, and just having some working capital. The reason I describe this as a win-win outcome is that first of all, right now on the east side location, the city probably gets about $10,000, $12,000 a month in gross sales taxes from that store. This store would probably be at least that, maybe more than that. So there's an opportunity loss every month that this store does not open up. The city is losing this $10,000, $12,000 a month. So if they can't open right now and have to go try to save and scrounge for that money, God knows when that store will be open. So the feeling was, let's go give them a hand. The structure would be, we'd lend them the money, and when these dollars start coming back at us, this $10,000, $12,000 a month, half of that we just take and put in our general fund coffers. The other half essentially would be repaying ourselves back for this, in a typical sales tax sharing kind of way, paying back this $325,000, which would take about 6 years to do that. If for some reason they were not able to pay that back, using that 50% of the sales taxes, then they would have to pay that back personally. So that's the essence of the deal. There may be some questions and so on, but I'd like to open it up for that. But I'm trying to simplify it. It's obviously described in the memo, but if anybody's got any more questions. And we will have to the extent that this gets approved and moved on, we'll have a much more extensive presentation at Committee of the Whole, talking about the company more. There's a video actually that's been done coincidentally on this that we'll have ready at that time and so on. So we'll do that, but I want to at least get the ball rolling.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, I have a question.
Alderman Tolliver?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the report, David. So pretty much from what I'm gathering, from what we read and from what you're saying right now, the city's losing $10,000 to $12,000 a month. We're gonna give this, or potentially, if it's approved, give this loan to 325, in which we're gonna pay ourselves back from half of the money that they're gonna be getting from this, and we're gonna pay ourselves back in 6 to 7 years.
Correct.
If we don't do this, they're not gonna open up for who knows how many more months, and we're gonna keep on losing $10,000 to $12,000 a month.
Correct.
All right, seems pretty simple to me, thank you.
That's why we did it. And again, family's here, and I love this I like doing it like this. It's a little more formal when we're at Cal and so on. So if anybody has any questions, Jaime's here, you could just, talk it through. But that was exactly the logic is, we've been working on this for the better part of 3 or 4 months, just working with their accountants, working with their bank to really understand what, and they've kept current with all their banks and so on. But again, that's the good news and the bad news, because there's no money to get this thing open.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. So to follow up with Alderman Tolliver, so let's say we don't approve this. They're not going to say stuck with the building, but at some point they would have to sell the building. And how long was it vacant, and not for and on the market prior to them buying from Aldi?
I wasn't here at the time, but
Yeah.
the Aldi closed
Yeah.
for a good 5-6 years, I think.
So it sat on the market for 5 or 6 years
Yeah,
before they
yeah.
purchased it. Okay, so it's not like they could put it on the market tomorrow and sell it in a week or something like that.
I mean, think of Walmart across
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah.
That's our last big box, and I have to tell you, we were fortunate with some of these other deals, the Carsons and so on, but and the HelloFresh and the Cub Food, but that's just tough to fill those big boxes. It's
Yeah.
just tough.
And then with the litigation going on for the equipment paid for but never delivered, so what happens if there's a settlement and they get that money back? How does that work?
I mean, I don't know that much about that. You want to just?
And the only reason I'm asking is because that's one of the costs that we're trying to help
Yeah.
them cover. So
Yeah.
is there something that happens with that? Is that something we
There's
get
nothing
back,
in the
or-
agreement. I mean,
Yeah.
we certainly could talk to them. If there's a windfall,
Yeah.
we would ask them to try to pay them money
Yeah.
quicker, or, again, if you look at these financials, which we've spent some time doing, talking to the accountant, there's just not a ton of cash coming out other than, let's say, on this kind of volume, maybe a couple $100,000, which again is going on to the other side. But we'd be happy to look at it, even amend something in there to say if there's a windfall, we could, expedite that payment.
And I close my thing here so I can talk. How much is that part of that 325?
It's 200,
200,000 of the.
right? Was that? What was that? 500. Well, no, okay, so the loss from that alone was, well, I mean, I thought it was $500,000. This is the question, I mean, was the.
Hello, Jaime Rodriguez, one of the owners of El Paso grocery stores.
So the question was the loss that you've experienced as a result of the fraud in terms of the equipment that was never delivered.
Oh, it was 570,000.
And currently in litigation for that, you said?
Yes, we have lawyers who are looking at it. We were lucky enough to get him to sign some papers personally guaranteeing the money. He's not denying anything, which is good. So we have a good case. It's just the lawyers want to take it to federal court. They feel it's going to be move a lot faster, and force him to come to Illinois, get a lawyer in Illinois. Hopefully, if he wants to avoid all of that, he might be more willing to pay.
Yeah. So then, yeah, my question was, if there's success in recouping some of that money, is that money that we're providing part of covering that loss, correct?
you know, I think what you're saying is, we have not put any provision in the,
Oh, okay.
that there's any automatic payment back. I
Yeah.
mean, we can put something in there, or at least, you know, take a look at what, because my guess, just from what he said, this is a long way off, right? They're not.
Yeah, it
even-
doesn't sound like it'd be
I called it
settled.
litigation,
Yeah.
but I think I probably overstated it. It's negotiation. So my guess is probably years before they do it, but we could look at something that would be fair and relevant, you know, some provision that might say that as long as we knew that the businesses were both viable and there was liquidity in both businesses, we could talk about it. I have not talked to Jaime about that.
Yeah, I mean, just something I'm
Right, it's a good
throwing
point.
out there to see if, you know, if he recoups 200,000 or 5,000, you know, like which one's worth being more concerned about, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's work on it before we get to Cal. I'd be happy to come up with some ideas.
Perfect, yeah, that's all the questions I have, Chairman, thank you.
So, I got a couple of questions. And mine are more about lending money to an entity that has gone through a number of difficulties. Now, the difficulties, grace of God, bad luck, or is it because we didn't get insurance when we should have? We didn't do the right things to take care of it? Are we not going to the right vendors to buy stuff so we don't have to go to litigation? So my concern is the background going forward. Are we gonna have things insured? Are we gonna go to the right vendors? Because giving money and then having another problem because we didn't have insurance in the right spot, there's just enough things in here to kind of question about what's going on behind the scenes, because we want to give our money to a stable business that's, you know, has the right insurance, the whole thing. So I guess I have a question. Let's just start out with the building. There was roof damage by what? What happened with that?
There was hail.
Hail damage?
Last April.
And that was not insured?
Well, I had temporary construction insurance, and I was getting that every 6 months, because at that time I didn't know how long the whole process was gonna take. Who knew it was gonna take this long? While that was insured, I wasn't too happy with what we were paying, so I started looking elsewhere for insurance. I let the first insurance expire. I didn't let it expire. While I found the new insurance and we were signing with them, the old one expired, and it was like Wednesday, our previous insurance expired. Friday, our new insurance started, and the storm was Thursday. So nobody wanted to help us.
Right. Well, and see, that's kind of what I'm going for, because if we're gonna give out money, we wanna make sure that if there's insurance things, then you overlap a couple days as opposed to missing a couple days, because you got unlucky there. But if it's our money that we're giving you, city's taxpayers' money, then we gotta make sure that we're covered with all the things that we need to be covered going forward. And you bought that from Dolan and Murphy, that building?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not leasing it?
No.
Okay. And then, you had a fire on the east side. Now, was that covered by insurance?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so
true.
insurance covered that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, Mr. Debo, the other thing I would like to talk about too is that's my concern, is that we can't have gaps in this where you fail, and if you fail, we fail. That's the kind of thing, so we have to make sure. And I do like what Alderman Warman brought up about if there's a windfall from that money for the lawsuit, which would be good for them, I think it should be kind of good for us too. You know, because we're giving money based on that, because I'm gonna guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that if that vendor didn't take off your money, you got what you're supposed to get, you know, the bang for the buck and the whole thing, that we may not be here today because of that. So I think that's part of the formula. So I think there should be something written in there that we do recapture some money. If you get the windfall, then maybe there should be something in there that we kind of get some of that money back. So if we could get that in there from legal or whatever, I think something along those lines, and I don't know the exact numbers. I think maybe you could bring something to us that seems fair and reasonable, but I think that should be included in there, because.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because if they get $500,000 and we're giving $325, you know, throw a little bit our way. That's the way I would look at it, because you may not have needed the whole thing. If you get it, if you don't, you don't. You know, so I don't want to take away from that. So those are my concerns going forward, if we can take a look at that.
I think it's great points, and I will say that there is, you know, lenders, all of us who've been in the business do require proper insurance.
Sure.
The agreement talks about being in compliance with that, so almost A equals B, B equals C. By definition, they have to be properly insured, but I think we'll call it out even more specifically going forward to make sure that that stuff doesn't
Yeah,
happen again.
and I know that you typically do that, but historically speaking at this, I think I'm a little nervous that we better, highlight it a little
We're
bit.
gonna,
Just
we're gonna
direct-
call
yeah,
it out
absolutely. Okay.
in a more specific way.
Okay. Alderman Bug, do you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I want to piggyback on what Chairman Franco said. I appreciate your story very much. I shopped in some of your stores, so I appreciate that. Mr. Debo, usually when you come here, we're talking about properties downtown most of the time. We're talking about there's a gap and the reason we step in to help the city. Because the city is not a bank. The city runs services for the citizens and businesses of Aurora. So I had a lot of questions along the same lines as Alderman Franco, and you've answered them. The fire on the east side, you were made whole because you had insurance. And so really that's not a factor to me. You had insurance, which you're supposed to have. There was a fire, and your insurance company paid it, and they made you whole. It's a business decision to buy a property during COVID. Okay, that was your business decision. There's risk in business decisions. There was a lot of risk in buying and starting a business during COVID. I think everyone up here can attest to that. So you made that decision to go forward. As Alderman Franco said, you had some bad luck. And there were some maybe not best decisions. If you're sitting in your insurance agent's office, you make sure one is going forward before the other one laps. That's why you have an insurance agent. So you being a part owner of two large grocery stores already, I mean, I believe you have an insurance agent. I hope you do. And those things would be seamless. And we really probably wouldn't be having some of these discussions right now. So there's a lot of businesses in our city who would love a $325,000 help. So I appreciate what Alderman Warman said. I would definitely like to see a clause with the damage, if there's some type of judgment finding in favor. But I have reservations. I'll be honest with you. I have reservations on this type of thing because I could think of right now. I could think of places in the 8th Ward, big empty strip malls. They would love to be able to get some type of deal like this. And, usually we're talking about decade empty buildings, decades, 20, 30, 40, we haven't been able, we're talking about 5 years. Now, you can go back and forth with that. Well, it's 5 years, a long time. Certainly not a food desert on the west side. We have the existing Aldi, we have the Jewel, and I believe they're doing an upgrade, right?
They already did the upgrade.
Oh, they did it?
They did,
Okay,
yeah.
I gotta go check it out. And you have some different items in those grocery stores. We realize that. And you have a different flair and a different flavor. So we appreciate having that throughout the city. Once you go down this path, it was not our normal path. It can open up a little bit of a Pandora's box. And
Yeah, I think you make really some excellent points, and it kind of harbors back to, I think, the discussions we had some time ago about that led to the grant program, which was a little bit more equal because I think you raised, I remember distinctly, you raised that exact point 3 years ago, and why this business and not that business. And we thought long and hard before coming in front of this committee on that. And it's going to be my take of it, and I certainly understand the sensitivity. First, I let Jaime talk about some of the fire displacement. My understand is that they couldn't make their product in that store for some time. They had to change locations and had substantial other costs. Is
Yeah,
that?
well, we to this day, we don't have a kitchen where that fire took place. We're cooking everything at our Grove Street location and having to move it back and, move stuff back and forth. We've been, it's been working with the city, it's been a little difficult with some of the inspectors, what they want, and that wasn't too clear from the beginning, but we, with the help of David, we've worked with them and we're moving forward finally.
The other point I just
Well,
want
let me stop you
Oh,
there.
you-
I don't want to get into too deep, because I don't know all the facts there. I've handled insurance cases. Mr. Alderman Tolliver handles insurance cases now. I mean, these are insurance matters. Loss of use is a real thing. So your insurance company, you tell them, I have a true loss of use, and you're compensated. That is not a factor to me. It's just not. That you are to be made whole by your insurance company. That's why you have insurance. That's why you pay that premium every month. So when something happens, and it's not just the fire part, loss of use, your kitchen is down, your insurance company should be compensating you.
No, and they
It
are.
should not be,
They are.
okay,
It's just, in the meantime, right, it gets difficult because they don't give you the check the next day. And I guess more or less just having all that happen while we're trying to open the store, that was a difficult part for us.
okay. So, okay.
I want to make another point. Again, back to your point about who, why, when. And the irony here is the incredible success that this business has had. So they, by doing the kind of volume they're doing on the east side, and that's in a smaller store. So I'm going to give you a number like $12 million again. And you think $12 million, you should be making a lot of money. But again, we've looked at the financials, and grocery stores, there's just a low margin business. But because the revenue is so high, the city taxes are high. And because the city taxes are high, there was this ability to use that money and repay. Whereas a lot of, let's say, a smaller dry cleaner, if they had a problem and they had a fire and let's say it was uninsured, you just couldn't justify it because you're right. When I come here with a yin and a yang. I don't come here and say, hey, about this. It's always, how are you going to pay us back, or what is the city getting? So in this case, it's not the typical gap thing, but there is a little bit more of this yin and yang because we do have that between the two stores. The city should be getting, $20,000, $25,000. So the last thing we wanted to do is jeopardize that machine with some short-term issue. That was the general. Whether we structured exactly right, I'm certainly open to that. But there's few businesses that would have that kind of volume that would enable you to pay that back.
Yeah, I've said my piece. We can't go back and see what type of, Alderman Warman mentioned a little bit, what if this did not go through? So we don't know what type of offers Dolan received other than yours, or what the market would bear out on that right now. We're very happy with success of your current stores. And this is to be determined on the west side still, so.
Thank you. Alderwoman Bay, I think you had a question too.
Yeah, Dave, for calculating the taxes that will be repaid, the sales tax, grocery tax is also part of it.
Not the Chris Minnick's not here, but it's really just the home rule tax.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you are here. Yeah, Chris has spoken extensively to their accountant, so let's explain, because that's changing a little bit.
Yeah,
Chris could go
it's
over.
going to go away in
Yeah.
Illinois.
Yes, correct. Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer for the city. Yeah, as the committee is aware, there was legislative action in the governor's most recent budget proposal to eliminate the 1% tax on groceries. The proposed incentive agreement and the proposed loan agreement actually has a provision in it. It does not include that 1% grocery tax in the calculation of the sales tax base that would be used to pay back the forgivable loan. It is, it's limited to the home rule sales tax, which does not apply to groceries. It is also the city's food and beverage tax, which does not apply to groceries either. The base for of the taxes that would be paid back primarily come from food and liquor taxes related to food prepared for immediate consumption and obviously liquor sales.
And also, did we think about alternate routes, like half of it as forgivable loan and other half as loan?
We've done that, and you know, we've done that a bunch of times. So for instance, with the new restaurants coming in, it's exactly how we structured it. Again, from a liquidity standpoint, we were concerned about their ability to service both debts and stuff like that. So we didn't want to add another, you know, they're servicing debt on $3.4 million is their, so each month they've got to pay debt service on that. So that's why we didn't structure it that way.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer. Just a couple of points why the administration authorized MOA to proceed with bringing this before you. Number one, clearly this group is a proven commodity. They have a long history of success in Aurora. I think that's been mentioned here. Secondly, they have taken a location, they've taken a major financial risk to come to a location on the west side. While it's not a food desert, it does not have the diversity and variety of what El Paso Mas Grande is proposing to offer. And it's in a shopping area that I would categorize, and I think our team is, we've been concerned about it only from the point of that vacancy. It's not like it's way in the back. It's a high-profile location. We think the foot traffic that this will generate will benefit the Ace Hardware. We know Ace Hardwares are another one of those vestige-type niche businesses that they need to be in and around high traffic to succeed. They don't have the, you know, in our area on the west side, we've got Home Depot, which is on a major corridor that's a huge national chain. So we'd like to see, and we believe that El Paso Mas Grande is going to have a very beneficial effect on the Ace, on the restaurants, on Acey's Pub, and the other businesses that are there, and some of them that are in the back, and they're out of sight, out of mind, but they're surviving. And we okayed Debo and his team to come up with this type of loan structure because it was not just an out-and-out grant. And Alderman Bug, to your point, you're right. We are not a bank. But many times, COVID forward, we have been approached by businesses where perhaps banks won't give them the time of day, or banks won't, it's not part of their portfolio. And so we took kind of this holistic approach to look at, here it is at this location, what have they spent to date? They've run into some unfortunate circumstances. And I've been around doing insurance a long time, and I know sometimes just because you have insurance doesn't mean the insurance company's automatically going to pay. And if there's timing issues and lapses and things going on, that happens, but that's part of the issue. And I think Alderman Warman raises an excellent point, and when I read the discussion situation, the paragraph on page 2 of your memo, based on cash flow anticipated, I think it looks like the loan would be repaid back in 6 years. I think we have to put a strong clause in, to Alderman Warman's point, that if you settle with your insurance company, that this windfall must first be directed, or maybe we work out a significant portion, if not all of it, goes towards reducing the city's liability. So let's just say it's $100,000 that you get back from your litigation, net to you. That would reduce the 325 to 225, and based on the $110,000 a year in revenue that the city does get, on average, I think, right, that's from the combination of the other locations. Now you're talking about significantly reducing the city's exposure from a 6-year time period. So I also want to put in the fact that they're very civic-minded. They support diverse activities. They also employ a lot of people. And so the fact is, that's another employer coming to the west side. So we're optimistic. We will go back, take to heart everything you all have said, and we will make a few modifications. We'll talk to Mr. Rodriguez and have this hopefully presented by COW.
Well, that's a fair explanation. Yes, I think we need to have our creative finance guys come up with a way that, depending on how much they get back, if they win that settlement, kind of comes back to us. So I'll let them figure that out, bring it to COW. But I always going to still have my concern that going forward, and we talked about this highlighting, I want to know, because of the things that have happened, I want to know that those insurance, I want you guys to read the insurance policies and make sure that they have enough coverage, they have the right coverage. There's we didn't go on the cheap, so when this happens, you're not getting the full thing because you didn't want to pay the more insurance because that's our money. So all that kind of stuff going into it, I guess.
And I mentioned to David earlier, but I don't think in the discussion it came out clearly. So, Mr. Rodriguez, we're going to put in, based on this great input from the council, we'll put in specific language that calls out that you must maintain all of your proper liability, workers' comp, all the portfolio of insurance packages, and specifically to ensure that, one, this type of situation doesn't happen again, but secondly, that the city has some indemnity, so to speak, some security that if a fire wipes out, God forbid, the entire building, that there's proper coverage and that the city would be in line. So we'll work with legal to come up with some language. And I think you had told us you have an insurance broker, correct?
Right.
So I don't think that should be an issue. In fact, we probably should require a certificate of insurance and have the city be, since we're almost a funder here, we are a funder, we should be receiving that as well.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
So unless there's any more comments, Mr. Do you have any more comments?
No, I think that's all very fair.
Alderman Lash.
Great.
I'll reserve the majority of my questions for Cal, but since the owner's here, very few short questions, but did you file a complaint with the FBI, since it seems like a interstate issue, and has law enforcement been informed to pursue the fraud case?
No, my lawyers didn't bring that up, but I will definitely bring that up to them.
To the U.S. Attorney General to pursue a fraud case? Because if they're ripping you off, they're probably ripping somebody else
Right.
off.
Yes, that's true.
And then on the hail damage, I mean, I don't know, there wasn't a significant amount of damage. My car was damaged in a hailstorm. It didn't debilitate me from driving, but what was the extent of the damage on
I found the company who actually started the work with the half payment. So the total is $115,000 that they charged us.
And what was damaged? It was a metal roof. It was
the flat
was,
roof, the new equipment we had just put up there, and there was just leaks everywhere. and the building, so we wanted to get those fixed.
So it was while the roof was torn off, there was leaks in the building?
Now, yes, it's a brand-new roof that we have there.
Okay. But because of the hail damage, it created leaks that created problems elsewhere.
Right.
And then my final question was, do you have other businesses in the area or in the state of Illinois, just out of curiosity, other restaurant, grocery stores?
Yes, we have 2 grocery stores on the east side of Aurora.
Oh, in addition to the Auroras?
Oh, no, just Aurora.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, anybody else from the, Alderman Warren, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So this is a true loan, it's not like a tax rebate or sales tax rebate where they file and we take the money and then send a check back to them, so this is a true, we
Well-
front the money and,
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
so, you know, to get the movement. Just again, to one of the points, you know, we have Invest Aurora, and Invest Aurora has had various access to dollars for different loans, and so we don't expect to be coming to you a lot for this kind of thing. This year, this is a little bit beyond. But as Alex Alexandru said, given who these people are to the community, given this confluence of circumstances, given the employment, given the whole picture, it's not something that we intend to do or would have expected to do until we realized about this loss of income to everybody. And could we create something that looked like a win-win outcome? I think with these comments, we could probably make it more of a win-win outcome. That's the goal, is to make it work.
So I will say before we go to a vote, you know, you come to us and it's always about the math. And I love it's about the math because math is black and white. So the math here looks good. But I think as we voiced in our concerns is that, is it something that we want to back? Is the financial stability, all the things that go into behind the scenes, does that give us, I don't know, comfort in back, you know, giving them the money? Because really we want to, we've always been comfortable giving people money. It was always about how much we're going to get back in there. So we kind of get that, but our comfort level needs to be taken care of. And I think based on what we're going to get for COW, it probably will be in some sort, whether it be, you know, if there's a windfall from the lawsuit, getting the insurance things done. So I think at a minimum, we're going to have to see that somehow at COW. But I think from what I hear from the committee, I think we're prepared to listen to that and see where we come with at that point in time. Is when everybody kind of agree that that's where we're at. So we're still going to take a vote, but I want to get a feel for that because I think that's going to be very important for us going forward. If as COW we don't hear the things that we're talking about, then maybe it wouldn't be a no-go, but
Yeah.
certainly willing to listen at that point in time.
Totally agreed and understood.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Alderman Buck.
Yeah, I'm gonna, one in two ways. I would probably make a motion to send this forward without a vote. If time is of the essence, I'm not certain, we haven't talked about that, but if this could be held here, then we would, you know, we wouldn't need to send it to COW. We got a Fifth Tuesday coming up, so I don't, that makes things go crazy. Yeah, I would, I think I want to make a motion to send this forward without a vote. I would not be comfortable voting on this without
Understood.
the information that you're going to provide us as COW, so no, I'm going to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for that. Do we have a second on that?
could we ask a few more questions before we?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, we can do the second and then before we do the vote. So let's see if they're gonna have a second, then we can vote yea or nay based on what the questions are from that.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second on that. So questions,
Yeah,
Going
I was
forward.
just gonna say, well, maybe questions and comments. So I would say regardless of if we move it forward without a vote or whatever we end up doing, just language-wise for the packet, I would say in addition to the COI, if we can get that, if it's possible for the city to be named as an additional insured on that, that would make me feel a lot better from an underwriting standpoint. And then like the Chairman Franco was saying, I mean, it's about the math. So I mean, just quick math right now at best case scenario, we've lost 600,000 at 10,000 for 5 years. Worst case, we've lost 864 if it's 12,000 at 6 years. So we're going on almost $1 million, and we're going to reach that in another year if we do nothing at all. Because it is a successful Aurora business that's already there, They are going to bring jobs. I grew up in that ward. That ward is drastically changing. They could definitely use a little bit more diversity in that area. So for those reasons, I would be okay with moving it forward, voting yes, or I just believe that this needs to go in front of everybody in the council. So however we move that forward, I just feel like that's what I would support, that way we do that.
Any other
I
comments?
do have one, and to Alderman Buggs' point, that time of the essence, is this something that's mission critical, we'll keep moving forward? Or is it something that we could hold here, review the language, and then move it forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd like to open in August, the end of August.
Yeah, that's what we're shooting for.
So that's, I mean, the reason that we
Yeah.
kind of brought it like that, but
Yeah, so, I mean, moving it forward to COW, we make the sausage here, we can make the sausage there too, so that's not a problem. Moving it forward without a vote shows that we're still looking at it, but with a little bit of a sense of urgency, so we don't go to the fifth Tuesday and that whole thing and make sure that they get open, because if they're not open and they're gonna be open, we just lost a month of rent, so it's kind of good for us if we're gonna go that way.
That's the point,
To get it open
yeah.
as soon as we can, because that's money for us too.
and the
So-
jobs, it all
right.
starts.
So with that said, we have a motion and a second to move forward without a vote. Oh, Patrick, do you want to say something?
Patrick Collins, Assistant Corporation Counsel. I believe it was a motion and a second to move it along without a recommendation.
Correct. I'm sorry.
Still
Yeah,
have to vote on that.
We still have to vote on that, yeah, so I'm just setting up for that. I'm laying the groundwork. No, that's okay, that's okay.
We
So-
love to vote.
All right, let's take the vote for the council before we do a question. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. My opinion, just my opinion, Alderman Buggs' motion, it would be probably more impactful for COW if the motion also included reference to those minimum requirements that we've talked through now. So you're not voting on that, but you're saying that the expectation of the Finance Committee is that the item is gonna come to COW
Okay.
as is with these additional conditions or changes.
All right, so we got that log, what those additional
Allowable.
changes were, so do we have to repeat that? I mean, we could do it, because he's actually said it, right? Patrick, you might have to come up for this one there. I just want to make it clean going forward.
Is that the
If that's
motion?
acceptable to,
He made
Yeah,
a motion to move it
motion.
forward, he seconded the motion, then he mentioned some items he'd like to see in there.
that was the certificate of insurance.
Right.
Language about, we'll call it windfall language.
Madam Clerk, you're taking notes on this motion that you're gonna, okay, that's,
So with that said, are we good to vote on that based on what we've already talked about as it is to move forward with those conditions? Are we set for that right now for a vote,
Yes,
in your
I
opinion?
amend my motion as stated for
Right.
the record.
do you second that motion?
Right.
I believe you're good for a vote,
Okay.
unless there's any other comments or anything else.
No, so I just want to make sure we're going to move it forward with those conditions, without a vote, and deal with the COW. Without a recommendation, so, okay. So let's vote on that. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we're moving it forward without a recommendation with those conditions. Alderman Lash.
Just a quick question for legal then. Will this be brought forward as an amendment to the existing item, agenda item? So there'll be a prepared amendment that addresses those items, and then that amendment can be made by a council member at the committee of the whole. Is that, I just want to understand the process.
Yeah, an amendment to the Legistar item or the? I'm
To
not
the
understanding
you're
question.
amending the proposal itself.
Yes.
That would be in the RDA, that would be the.
So you're just
document.
going to change the RDA, and the RDA will come before
And we'll
Cal.
highlight the differences from what you all saw to what the full council will see.
So,
We'll discuss that actively.
so I
We'll
would
raise
also
those.
say, yeah, thank you, and I would also say this too, because we don't think it's urgent, but we do want to move it along as expeditiously as possible, so let's make sure we get everything in there we need, so we don't have to keep it at COW for 2 weeks. Let's get it all in there, because, we want to get it done. So that's kind of what this purpose is. So that amount of money that they get, if they get the bonanza from the lawsuit, how we're going to do, I want all that in there so we can move forward, if we can do that. And I'm assuming we can, because you guys are magicians.
We'll,
Not you, but you.
we'll make sure we do it, and, given how many we could speak at one time, it's not unusual. If you want to call it, we'll be talking to you. If there's questions, let's say on the insurance language, I mean, we're happy in the next day or two to just go back and forth. So when we get there, we've finessed it to a point that it works, because I think these points are great points, and I think we could do it, and sometimes we like to just talk to you, just, is this relevant to what you were saying? Is this enough? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right, so we good on this one now?
We're good.
Okay, good. Anything else to come before the Finance Committee?
Motion to adjourn?
That was quick. We have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Buck, second by Alderman Warman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned at 3:45. Thank you very much.
We only had one. We had to make it interesting.
Did?